Here's Sports Director Jeff Blankman, John Ryan, and Jeff Honnold.
Welcome to the frozen tundra of KCIM this morning. Apparently, the studio's a little chilly for certain people.
I think it's nice.
It's cold in here.
I call it fat boy friendly.
I have zero problem with this going on this morning, but apparently we have a sports director, Jeff Blankman, who you're threatening the hoodie already.
I am. Yeah. Hold off until it gets to here, but I'm feeling it definitely here tonight. So
so you got that going on. Honnold and I are what the deal is here. So
yeah, well, Chelsea, I think, had to have the fan turned off, so that lets me know that it's not exactly as warm as you guys think it is in here. So.
Plenty fine in here. So we got some news to share. By the way, starting with some news and notes. Craig Lynch, the head coach of Glidden Ralston and superintendent.
He asked me to kind of keep it quiet for a little while, so we haven't said anything. I'm sure that people over in Glidden, since he has talked to the team, probably are aware of it. But Craig has had a tremendous amount of success over there at Glidden Ralston, one of the really good guys in the business, and it's been a lot of fun working with him, and we will get to work with him for the rest of the season, and hopefully after the season's over, we maybe can get him to join us here on We Rewind and talk about his career. But yeah, it's officially on the agenda for tonight for the school board, so it'll become official tonight. But yeah, Craig Lynch going to be stepping away as the head coach for the Glidden Ralston Wildcats.
As much as he hates even doing the Friday night thing, you really think you're going to get him to come in here?
Well, I don't know if we can get him to come in, but might be able to get him to join us over the phone.
I love talking to him, but he hates that interview.
Yeah.
He's going to
he's gotten better.
Good. He's good.
He's really good with him. Yeah.
He's still going to continue on as superintendent.
Yes,
correct?
He is. Yes. Just stepping away as football coach. I think with all the administration stuff that he has to do, it's just gotten to be too much. And I know that there's been discussions of if he can find the right guy for the last several years, that he knows it was getting to be that time. So sounds like maybe they found that right guy.
He's had such consistent staff over the years, too, on that football staff. Yep. You knew exactly what you were going to get. Glidden Ralston ran a program when Craig was there that just year in, year out, they were just going to pound you into submission.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe the reason why he's thinking of stepping away is now they're still wanting to run the football, but they spread you out now, and they throw the football all over the place. You got Cole Corson calling plays over there, and as Craig said after week one, we've got these 3 to 4 hour football games because they're not running it so much.
Well, and the other thing you look at, too, is they are a young ball club. And my guess is he doesn't want to walk out with the cupboard empty. Right. I think they're built for the future here in the next few years. So, probably another step away. Just let somebody else come in and at least have a program that's running really well.
It's one of those programs too. If you don't have the horses to run that kind of style of offense, like the triple option kind of offense that he'd like to run, if you just don't have that, you got to switch styles, and that's what's precipitated this. And Cole Corson does a terrific job. That guy's got a mind on him about. I mean, he's a creative guy on offense.
Yeah, and the mind never stops. I think
that's his problem.
While he's sleeping, it's still going.
See, you said that with a smirk on your face.
But because I know he doesn't sleep. Coach Lynch said that this style, though, that they're playing right now fits the talent that they have better than probably anything else that they could potentially be running. But yeah, it's going to be different. I've been here 16 years, and every fall I call Craig Lynch and we talk Glidden Ralston football every week. So it's going to be odd for me next week to not be doing that.
I always thought it was the Clint Eastwood interview. Make my day. I always wanted him to say that. He never would.
Maybe we can get him to do it after the season when we get him on. So
we hope. Wish him the best of luck. But boy, you tell you what, you talk about commitment to a program. He could have given this up a long time ago when he moved up into being the principal and then the superintendent, but he wanted to stick with it.
Right, absolutely, and he's done an amazing job over there. Absolutely.
Going to miss him once again, Craig Lynch. Hopefully we'll get him in later on. Hopefully you'll have to do your best salesman job to get him over here.
I know. He's over at Peyton Sheridan on Tuesday mornings. I just talked to him here probably 15, 20 minutes ago, so I doubt we'll get him all the way over here, but we probably can get him on the phone for
I don't think he's ever stepped foot in the studios here. Craig, it's only 7 miles down the road from Glidden. Come on. You can spare the 10 minutes to drive over here.
And he actually used to coach in Carroll, too.
Yeah. I remember that when I first started here. He was at Carroll. He had just moved over to Glidden, his alma mater.
Absolutely. I was
so
the freshman coach here in town, if I remember correct. Yeah.
So that's, again, a long, storied career for a great coach around the area.
Absolutely.
We've seen a lot of them come and go. Some of the long-time coaches, starting to retire and stuff, and already have in the last few years. But Craig Lynch, certainly one of those well-respected coaches out there. Speaking of maybe not so well-respected, we turn over to volleyball, and I understand, Jeff Blankman, you were hanging out with all your friends in the corner of the gym the other night. Honnold shows me a picture of you sitting all by yourself, way up in the corner of the gym. Nobody wants to talk to you. Nobody wants to see you.
Well, he forgot to shower, so that's part of it.
I'm okay with that.
Even his mom wouldn't call him. That's how bad it was.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it was completely barren. There was like 2 sections completely of empty bleachers before you got to anybody. Part of it was Honnold was in the opposite corner. That was as far away from him as I could get.
I would agree.
Without having to be around him. So
it was also redneck night for the student section.
Yeah.
So
if you go out to, I think, Jeff, you're going to share it on KCIM and KKRL, the website. It's out on Roselle Mutual right now, but it was redneck / Daisy Duke. It's somewhat drag maybe. Those boys were a little bit rough. It was hard to look through, but they had a lot of fun.
I'm shocked the moms let the boys walk out of the house like that.
There was a lot of concern in the stands while I was sitting around talking to some parents.
Hey, that's the way it was worn in the 80s, man.
The interesting thing though was football coach Chris Moore did come up and talk to me for a little while last night. Honnold didn't get a picture of that, of course. But,
no, I didn't see him.
But he said, he goes, I was surprised they did this day. He goes, that's kind of normal attire for the guys during the week.
You got to go out and take a look at it. It is worth it. And I'm going to add more pictures. I realized that only 11 went on there of the 40. So I know I got one of Cale Peavesdorf up close, and it's rough. He looks a lot like he's dead, and I feel sorry for the poor kid.
I did ask the guys afterwards that next time that's going to be their night to warn me ahead of time so I don't come down.
So maybe you can go somewhere else.
Daisy Dukes and cowboy boots on guys is not a good look.
No.
Not a good look.
But it made rewind.
It made rewind.
Yes.
We go off to the classiest of stories here on this show. We got to talk about Kemper over the weekend getting knocked off by Harlan. That was unexpected. Now they've got to go play Harlan in conference play this week.
Yeah, they'll head down there tonight. I'll have that broadcast for everybody tonight. Looking forward to it on KKRL. You've got head coach Keith Stickrod and son-in-law, Will Bauman, the head coach down at Harlan. So I think the rivalry's always been there, but it's a little different now than what it was. But you could tell Harlan wanted that one on Saturday. It was the final match for both of them of the day. Kemper had been sitting undefeated on the day. Harlan had a couple of losses. They were playing for second place if they could win that one. They really went out and passed the ball and served the ball extremely well. And Kemper, which had been a little up and down all day. The good thing for them, their down was, just enough to squeeze by an ESAC, just enough to squeeze by a South Central Calhoun, but it wasn't enough. They got it big in the second game. Couldn't hold on, 19-14, going to just 21 in that second game and got tied up at 20 apiece. And then Harlan made some plays down the stretch to be able to pull that one out. So I think you'll see a different Kemper team show up for that one on the road tonight. I think that might have been maybe a wake-up call for them about the consistency that they'll need to play with if they want to get back on the pedestal where they were last year.
Well, knowing Keith, if they don't get consistent, there'll be other players out there.
Yep.
I mean, he's not afraid to pull the string, and you can see it. I mean, they're good enough to beat a Red Oak team, which I watched was really good, really quick, really good passing. I think you're going to see him demand consistency, and if he doesn't get it, he'll start making changes in a hurry.
Yeah, and that's the way they've been, it sounded like, all summer long. They'd go out and they would knock off Ankeny Centennial, which is one of the elite 5A schools in the state, and then turn around in the same tournament and get beat by somebody or, have a close match with somebody that they probably shouldn't. So I think they sometimes play to the level of the competition that they feel like they're facing.
When you get to the end of those tournaments on weekends, and sometimes just the motivation is just there to kind of say, let's get going on this one.
Iowa State game was on, and a lot of people in the stands were trying to concentrate on that. So
were they in the first or second weather delay when that was going on?
It was probably the second weather delay at that point. Yeah.
So that's again rough outing for Kemper, but they got him at Harlan. I mean, they play. How many times does Harlan beat Kemper? Do you think on a normal basis, if they're just playing conference matches, not tournaments? This Kemper team is loaded. I mean, they're good.
This Kemper's team's really, really good. I would say Kemper probably wins 9 of 10.
Should win 9 of 10, yeah.
Should win 9 of 10. And that's not to take anything away from Harlan.
No.
They've got a pretty good program there and a pretty good team this year. But This Kemper team's got a chance to be a lead again this year.
All right, so that cap, and they'll play Harlan once again this week. Teams around the area went 4-0, I think, last night, didn't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Really good night locally. Glidden Ralston continues to kind of roll on. They went over to Madrid last night and picked up some really nice wins. Knocked off Madrid, Collins, Maxwell, and Baxter. Both Collins, Maxwell, and Baxter were three setters, and then they ended up sweeping Madrid. Had some illnesses and some kids not feeling very good going over there. They kind of had to battle through that, but they're sitting at 7-1 now on the season. For Coon Rapids Bayard, moved to 11-1 on the year last night. Struggled at times, Jeff. I thought they didn't look quite as crisp as what they did when I saw them earlier this year against HST Avoca Walnut, but a good serving team that has the potential to be pretty darn good.
It looked to me like they came out relaxed and maybe too relaxed.
Yeah.
They've seen Elkhorn Kimballton already this year. Didn't really come out focused. Struggled. Would get up. Would relax and make some really silly errors. And I think that's concerning if you're a coach that you had those errors. But they really were never in jeopardy. A little bit at the very beginning of the first game, but for the most part, they handled it. Just weren't quite as sharp as what they have been during the year, but it's one game aberration, I think.
Yeah, and Arweva last night went on the road, picked up a nice non-conference win over Maple Valley Antonoto Charter.
That's a good win.
Had to go to 5 to do it, dominated the first game, then dropped games 2 and 4, picked up an 18-16 win in that fifth set last night. The big thing for them is after going 0-4 up at the Ridgeview tournament to start the season, and that Ridgeview tournament's really strong. They've got everybody back. They were missing some kids that week. They've went on now to win 3 straight, 2 of those in conference, so it sets up a huge matchup tonight. They're at Glidden Ralston tonight, so you got 2 undefeated teams in the conference going to be squaring off with each other tonight over in Glidden, so that one should be a fun one. I know Jeff Storyhan planning on zipping over there tonight to be able to get some photographs of that one.
I would say some of those photos have been fantastic.
Yes.
Of shots. You saw one, you were showing me one this morning, Jeff, where a player, I can't remember what team, I think Glidden Ralston, was, got a kick of the volleyball to save it. I mean, ball perfectly right there on her toe. It was a perfect capture.
Yeah, I don't know how he did it. Mm-hmm. I was actually filming at that point and got just a great shot. It's a great angle, and my wife's got a great camera, so I just point and just let it click, 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 and a little bit of edit here and there, and it's a beautiful shot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll have to definitely check that one out because that play stood out when you saw it. And then the other team last night, Peyton Jourdan, they pick up their second win of the season, got Danielle Hoyle going last night. She had a 500 kill efficiency last night, so she went up and swung really, really well. And this is a team, as I said last week, when they serve well, they're pretty tough. And last night they served well in that 3-0 victory over Orient Mexburg.
Yeah, so 4-0 night for our area teams last night in volleyball. Big schedule coming up tonight. Carroll at ADM. Nick Brinks will call that one on Kick 106.7. And Kemper at Harlan. Jeff, you're going to be on hand for that one. The rematch tonight.
You bet.
7 o'clock on 93.7 KKRL. More on KCIM Sports Rewind. We'll talk a little high school football coming up next.
As the athletes at Rehabilitation Services at 794-5000 for sports injury and treatment rehab.
3 guys with 30 minutes of airtime to fill.
Complete and total disaster.
It's KCIM Sports Rewind.
Well, not total disaster.
That isn't the truth.
That sounds a little harsh, don't you think?
I would say pretty close to that.
Well, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, on a regular basis. I mean, if we actually prepare, it'd be dangerous.
It would. Yeah.
We don't. So.
Well, it's no fun if you're prepared.
Well, yeah, that would take time and effort.
We don't do that.
It's something we don't excel at.
That's the reason why some of the things are just off the wall, because we're just pulling them out of our brain as it comes.
That's not where I pull it from.
Do want to say a big hello this morning, all the great folks at Carroll Lumber. They got locations in Wall Lake, Lakeview, and Odebolt. And Larson Storm Doors, something you got to have before heading into the bad weather.
Yeah.
I mean, we got about 90 degrees right now. You want to keep the cold air in, the warm air from escaping this wintertime. Check out
Unless
a great...
you're Blankman, you do it the other way.
Well, yeah. He wears a hoodie indoors no matter what. So storm doors are lost on him.
It'll work.
Rebates are available right now on Larson brand storm doors. They are the best in the business. They've got windows, they've got porch windows, they've got storm doors. That rebate is good through October the 13th. So if you really want to get your home ready for bad weather, quality Larson brand home products available at Carroll Lumber. You can talk to Mike and Allie here, Bill and Craig up in Wall Lake, Chris up in Lakeview, and Mike and Odebolt. They'll get you set up, get your home ready to go for the cold winter months ahead. So,
and John, you and I were just talking yesterday with the football season now 5 weeks into the 10-week season. Before it's over, it's generally fairly cool. And starting to get cold. So realistically, folks, we're 5-6 weeks away from having that weather. You're going to want those doors.
Yeah, you should be the weatherman for last Saturday at Ames, talking about some of the unexpected weather going on there. But, yeah, it's going to be – I've been to some playoff games, opening round playoff games, where it has been nasty cold.
Snow. I remember one where Carroll played up in Mason City. I called back to Carroll's. I was driving through to go deer hunting, and it was snow and slush. I said, bring your rain gear.
Yeah, exactly. Let's talk high school football over the weekend. Carroll High and Kemper both fall. Carroll High had some success down in Harlan, just didn't win the field position battle early and just fell down early.
Yeah, Harlan's opening position, possessions in that first half, every single time they had the ball, they started in Carroll territory, and they were able to take advantage of that. They started at their own 19 on their first drive and marched down the field. Then it was at the Carroll 43, the Carroll 42, and the Carroll 39. They get up 21-0.
Yeah, that's putting your defense in a real bad spot.
Midway through the second quarter, Carroll not able to get the run game going. Came out second half after making a nice drive to make it 21-7 going into the halftime, and got the run game going a little bit more. Outscored them 14-13 in the second half. But when you're down 21-0 at one point to Harlan, especially on the road, it's really tough to be able to come back and get a win there as they fall 34-21.
I always remember talking to Denny McCartan about, we always talk about, the coaches made a great adjustments and all this stuff. Right. And Denny says, nah, a lot of times you look at the players and go, play harder.
Right.
Do the things we're coaching you to do.
Right.
And you'll find success. And that's kind of what happened. They turned it around. It wasn't quite enough in the end as the Tigers fall 34-21. A disappointing loss.
Yeah, tell you what, they did find Luke Woosley, though. He's had a really nice year catching the ball, but I think they found that he might be a pretty good guy to have running the ball on those jet sweeps.
And I heard you on your pregame show talking with Coach, and you were talking about maybe moving some defenses around. And when I talked to Coach McCartney, he said, well, it looked good on paper, but that didn't work out very well. So they do make adjustments game time.
Yeah, Luke Woosley, 8 receptions, 87 yards and a touchdown, 6 carries, 49 yards. So 8+ yards per carry and over 10 yards reception.
Right.
So
and just
good
runner.
stuff.
Tough runner.
Absolutely. Kemper just fell victim to turnovers. Just too many of them to fall. And if you play a team like Glenwood, they're gonna turn those into points easily.
We had 4 last week against South Central Calhoun, 4 this week against the Glenwood. You can't do that against good football teams. One of them was inside the 5-yard line. And the bad thing for them is it bounced right up to Glenwood. They returned it 60 to 70 yards into Kemper territory, and then were able to score off of that. So those kind of things, those kind of bounces have not gone Kemper's way the last couple of weeks, but they need to get the ship righted this week against Denison.
Tom Brink's got some really nice pictures of that one. It's posted out there in Roselle Mutual.
By the way, how good is Glenwood?
Really good. Really good.
Yeah.
They're definitely a top 10, probably top 5 type of team. The interesting thing in talking with Coach Klein on Saturday morning was this game could have been a 20-13 game at halftime, and instead it was 27-6.
Yeah, that's just, once again, turnovers dooming Kemper in that one.
Yep.
South Central Calhoun all over IKM Manning, 31-0. Titans just continue to prove week in and week out that they are for real.
Yeah, dominated the early part of the game, got up 21-0 in the first quarter. IKM Manning did a really good job of making some adjustments in the second half. The defense played much better, kind of contained South Central Calhoun a little bit, started to win the battle up front. Which is something that they've struggled with a little bit this year. They're just a little bit undersized and held the Titans to just a field goal in the second half.
Everybody talks about South Central's offense, and we know, but go look at that defense. They have not
really
given
good.
up any points.
Yep.
I mean, they're down at single digits, I think, maybe
Yeah.
just into the teens is all they've given up all year.
Yeah.
5 weeks into this thing. So, I mean, that is one heck of a defense.
Yeah, and they're fast and they're physical on defense, and they create a lot of turnovers.
And that was exactly the way you would always normally describe an IKM Manning team, but they just don't quite have the size that they used to have. on that
absolutely.
team.
So. Yeah, they're up front. They're just not as physical as far as size-wise as what they've been in the past.
Nice win by Esac County over Ridgeview, 35-8. Good balanced game once again, but it was the second half where Esac County kind of took over. Talked to Eric McCullough on the New Way Forward football scoreboard show. He talked about the defense started it, but it was a pretty balanced win for the Raiders.
Our defense got us on the board first. We just played well. They kicked off to us, and we struggled a little bit. They definitely came out with a pretty tough scheme right away, and we're blitzing. We just had to get some communication stuff together. But we punted, and our defense played well and got them pinned deep. I think Austin Corbin made a hit on the running back, quarterback exchange, and Josh Warnemont was able to recover it for us to get that first score, and you could just see the fire in the kids a little bit. Defense, we played well. According to unofficial our stats, we held them under around about 75 total yards, and we played our JV about the last 4 or 5 minutes. And they got a couple big runs on us, but for the most part, our kids did well on defense. Offense, we did some good things. We took some chances. We threw the ball. We spread the ball around quite a bit. We rushed for 217 yards, and Ty Schmidt threw for 141 yards. So it was a nice mixture, a nice balance there for us. But like I said, it was just a complete game for all of our kids.
So a nice win for Esac County, once again, 35-8 over Ridgeview. That was a much-needed win for a Raider ball club that, again, we're struggling and playing tough schedule so far.
And during the interview, you could hear the relief and you could hear the fun that Coach McCullough was finally having. He's had a tough year so far with injuries and the players just things not going their way, but a good win for them.
And they've got a chance to be going 2-2 going into districts. They head down to ICAM Manning. We'll have that game for everybody on KKRL. That's really a matchup, really, in a way, of ICAM Manning looking for their first win. ESAC looking to get to 500. Both teams really need this win heading into district play, so it should be a fun one.
Another huge win for Coon Rapids Baird, taking on a very good Woodbine ball club. 62-49 the final here.
Yeah, Jeffrey Eagle rushing for over 300 yards in the game. Just a dominant kid. They ran for 474 yards as a team. This game not even as close as the final score indicates. No. Woodbine got a couple of late touchdowns in the last minute and a half of the game to make that game appear a little bit closer than what it was. Coon just so physical up front, and that run game's going to be hard for anybody to stop.
And Coach Moore talked about how well that defense played, and those two Pryor boys, we talked about them going into the game, that they're the real deal, and for Coon Rapids Baird to be able to shut them down like that is tremendous.
Yeah, and that's what head coach Chris Moore talked about on the New Way Forward scoreboard show. They did give up some plays, but he also talked about the dominance of the offensive line for CRB.
The quarterback Wyatt and then his brother Lane still gave up 483 yards passing, and Lane, gosh dang, he had like a ton of catches, probably 15 catches for 262 yards. They still made a lot of plays, and they had coverage on them, but they're just really good athletes and good in space, and made the play on us. And so our kids were kind of upset about that, but there wasn't much they could do. But then, over on the offensive side for us, our offensive line just wore them down all night. We were physical, and then Eagle and Clipperton just ran extremely hard. Eagle had 44 carries for 313 yards, and then Clipperton was 17 carries for 145. And, again, back to that offensive line, they just imposed their will on them all night and just really controlled them. And that was the difference in the game.
Let me go back to that stat. They gave up over 480 yards passing. Apparently, Dan Fouts and had a good night that night.
Yes,
that's a crazy stat. You give up that much, but you still win 62-49.
Yeah, absolutely. That tells you how dominant they were offensively to be able to do that again, running for over 400 yards themselves. The Lane Pryor kid from Woodbine was up at Iowa State for that Iowa State-Iowa game. He's being recruited pretty hard by both. He was on the Iowa State sideline. So here's a kid 6'3", 6'4", 215 or so, 220, pretty athletic kid. And they were, they gave up some big plays to him and stuff, but did enough to be able to get a huge win.
Yeah, Audubon on Friday night got a big win over Exira Elkhorn Kimballton, 48-6. A lot of penalty flags, not much flow in this game early, and that's what head coach Sean Burks talked about afterwards. Said, quote, "It was a funky game."
It was kind of a weird game. There were something like 23 accepted penalties or something like that for like 175 penalty yards, and that doesn't count what was declined or offsetting. And only 15 of those were on me. So it was just a weird game in general. A lot of penalties, a lot of just not a lot of flow and momentum in the game. But we got hit 13-0 in the first, 20-0 at half, and we almost had to regroup at half just because it was just kind of a weird flow. We didn't feel very good about it, but anytime you feel like you have to regroup when you're up 3 touchdowns and pitch on a shutout, I guess that speaks a little bit about the talent on the team right now. So we were pretty multiple with tonight. 167 rush yards, 197 passing yards. So, pretty well balanced. We threw the ball pretty efficiently. It was kind of a funky game tonight.
Funky is not how you think coaches describe games.
Maybe the smell in the locker room.
If next week's game is tubular, I'll be really floored.
Sean Burks would be a little Sean Penn then.
Exactly. A little Spicoli thrown in there. Also, rounding out the schedule, tough nights last Friday night for Glidden Ralston and Arweva.
Yeah, Glidden Ralston just out physical in that game. Able to move the football early on. Turnovers hurt them a little bit as they had some chances early on. But Coach Lynch was talking to me here earlier this morning and she said, we just didn't win the physical battle, and that's something he's kind of talked to his team about there. And then Arweva, Jeff, I know you talked with Coach Peterson.
Yep.
Just such a young team this year, and you got a bunch of sophomores and stuff going up against juniors and seniors, and it's a growing season for Arweva.
And what you don't think about is they don't have a JV team, so those freshmen and sophomores didn't get playing time unless they got on the varsity, and they had such a deep varsity. Right now, he's looking to let the kids keep having fun, make it fun for them, but also make them improve. So his goal right now is improvement every week so that they're good by the end of the season and next year really be dominant.
Tell you what, it'll be interesting to see what happens with Glidden Ralston the rest of the year now that Craig Lynch has announced he won't be back next year, what that dynamic has with the team.
I agree. Absolutely, yeah. And it'll start this week. They've got Exire Elkhorn Kimballton, one of the elite rivalries really in our area over the last 10, 15 years.
We're going to talk about rankings coming up next here on KCIM Sports Rewind.
As the athletes at your house prepare for hard work and fun. Services at 794-5000 for sports injury and treatment rehab.
All right, we got our stretching out of the way here in that commercial break. I'm sure if anybody was watching online.
the old guys are hurt.
Yeah. You should have heard the cracking of the joints going on while we're in that break.
Still not completely done over here.
Between the weekend of volleyball and last night, the old bleacher back starting to really get in.
I know all about that.
It's just old age.
Yeah, that's true. Let's talk rankings. Some teams jumping up in the rankings this week.
Yeah, I tell you what, we'll start off with South Central Calhoun. They stay at number 6 this week in Class 1A. They look really, really good. Part of the problem is sort of the 5 teams that are in front of them.
I was going to say, that's a pretty fair ranking, I think, for them because there's so many good teams in that district.
You bet. Westsu, Hawarden, Dike, New Hartford, Van Meter, West Branch, and West Lyon all remaining ahead of them. Now, the top 6 or top 7 technically, with Trainer sitting at number 7 again this week, not changing at all.
It wouldn't shock you to see it not change all year.
Yeah. Absolutely. I could see those teams all, except for when they have to play each other, and stuff. Things might move around a little bit there. The one that I found a little bit interesting, that Coon Rapids Bayard win over Woodbine, really caught the attention of voters. They jumped up 2 spots to number 6 this week. The interesting thing is that Audubon slipped 2 spots, even dominating Exire Elkhorn Kimballton the way they did. Even coming off of that win over number 2 at that time, Fremont Mills, Audubon with a pretty convincing win fall. So it tells you what that Coon win over Woodbine did with the voters, that they jumped all the way up to number 6 this week.
Yeah, that's going to be just a tremendous game. That Audubon Coon Rapids Bayard game is just going to be, it's going to be hard hitting. It's going to be physical, and both of those teams probably need to be in the playoffs.
Well, and if you look at this, you got Coon, Audubon, Caminita, and Woodbine all in that district, either ranked or receiving votes to be ranked. So that tells you, don't forget about that Cam team. This district is loaded. And it's going to be hard to get more than one team out of there. I agree with Jeff. I think they should get 2 just because of how deep they are, but they might beat each other up enough that you might have some 3 and 4 lost teams in that district, overall, that their RPI just won't be enough to squeeze them in.
Yeah, and then we've talked about that district in the past. It's always been a great solid. Just some of the teams have changed a little bit, but there's always 3 and 4 teams up there that could deserve to probably be in the playoffs.
Absolutely, and last year they squeezed 1 in, so hopefully they'll get at least 2 in this year. So wanted to mention one thing real quick for people. You heard the little audio clips and stuff with the New Way Ford Scoreboard Show from Friday night. I have been writing recap interviews with all the football games again this year. One of the things I added this week that I'm going to continue to do is I cut out those interviews and I post those at the bottom along with some stats for each of the games. So they can go to the website. Usually have that stuff up by Sunday, late afternoon, early evening. So you can go back and if you didn't get a chance to hear what the coaches said, you can read the recap story and then hear those interviews with the coaches as well.
But again, first time you hear him is the New Way Ford Scoreboard Show Friday night from 10 until midnight.
And Nathan will be back, so I know our viewership dropped last week when I was doing it. So with Nathan back, they can enjoy it.
All the games are podcast as well. MC's Country Cafe Coaches Show. Photographs online. Quick.
Roselle Mutual will be out on KCIM, KKRL, KIC. Yep. So they're all free. Go ahead and use them. They're here. They're there for you. Roselle Mutual, doing it for free, wanting to promote our area kids.
All right. So there you go. That's the week in high school football. We'll going back here next week, 9:30.
Yeah,
Sport Group going to meet once again.
Yeah, I think so.
All right.
You can have coffee and stuff ready. You know, it'd be nice.
We might need to get a masseuse.
Oh, there we go.
I may not be here next week. I'm out. That's KCIM Sports Rewind.
When you need to know, KCIM is the